The Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl for the fourth time in 5 years. They cleared the AFC's gauntlet with the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Ravens in a manner that should keep anyone from ever doubting Patrick Mahomes. Again, let's talk about that and a lot more right now on 10 Things.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Chiefs are going to take on the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of the Super Bowl just a few years ago, and help me break that down. And, well, let's break down the win over the Ravens. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got a couple weeks for that. Appreciate everybody for spending part of your day with us here on 10 Things. Either watching the video on YouTube or listening to the audio, and we are joined by Mr. Craig Stout down here in Texas to help break this one down on 10 Things. Your first appearance on 10 Things.
My first appearance here, and what a better time than after the Chiefs win yet another Lamar Hunt trophy. I mean, I'm very glad that they addressed their trophy case, a few years ago. As it turns out, that was very prescient of Clark Hunt and the organization to, hey, maybe we're going to draft this Patrick Mahomes guy. We're going to need to stock this up here in the near future, and they've done that so far.
Yeah, they were prepared for success.
Yeah.
And, it has been pretty special to watch. And again, we are going to break down the 10 things that stood out from the Chiefs' win over the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship. Before that, we do need to thank the presenting sponsor of this show, Mission Taco Joint. You can go to Mission Taco, get some tacos on Tuesday, and just mention KCSN, and you get 10% off your order at any of the Kansas City area locations, which are in South Plaza, Crossroads, and the new one out there in Park Place, Leawood Town Center area. We've been there multiple times. They also help us with the KCSN Foundation, our Feed It Forward. So we appreciate them. If you're listening to this and your tacos sound good, go over to Mission Taco. You won't be disappointed. And we were not disappointed with the result of the game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I know you want to talk defense, but we're going to start with offense because it's the way this is laid out.
Okay.
And for anybody listening, I'm excited to do this show with you just because I want to see how it goes back and forth because there's just a lot of information for people that have tuned into this. And so let's get this thing started.
You know I love stats.
Yes.
I do this. That's
Stats
my
and
post-game stuff. Yes.
Yeah, shout out Pro Football Focus, Next Gen Stats, the Chiefs communication notes, all the places that we get these notes. Just a packet for you right at the beginning of the week to have you out there listening, have all kinds of ammo to talk with your friends about. So, all right, first one, Chiefs reaching back-to-back Super Bowls after beating the Ravens 17-10 in Baltimore to capture the Lamar Hunt Trophy once again. The Chiefs will now have 6 Super Bowl appearances in franchise history, which is the 6th most Super Bowl appearances by a franchise in NFL history. They trail the San Francisco 49ers, who have 7, maybe 8 now. This has been updated. Dallas, Denver, Pittsburgh, and New England, who has 11. A total of 12 different teams have combined to make 23 back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, with the Chiefs accomplishing that feat in 2019 and 2020, as well as now in 2022 and 2023. Only 7 other teams have reached back-to-back Super Bowls multiple times. 3 teams, Buffalo, Dallas, New England, had 3 consecutive back-to-back appearances. A lot to say. This little stretch that we've talked about being the golden age of Chiefs football, contextualized in a way that now puts them on the map and talking about most successful teams in NFL history and organizations at getting to the big game.
This is one of the things that you and I had talked about, after the game, sitting around here kind of taking it all in. It is wild to think about how recently it was, in both of our fandoms of the Kansas City Chiefs, that we were kind of looking down rather than up at this list, saying, oh, man, Chiefs have, a couple Super Bowl appearances. Maybe they'll never get back there in our lifetimes. At least we're not the Lions level of fan. I mean, sorry, Lions fans, but, that's kind of the way it is, and unfortunately the way that it still is for you. But we were looking at this list very, very recently saying, I can't believe all the success that all these other teams have had. And now they're sitting at 6th all time. Like just this little mini run here has just kind of elevated them into that upper echelon. Obviously, they've got some teams to catch here, but it's insane to think about how quickly that happened.
And I'm going to try to articulate this, and you tell me if this is brutal. It didn't click to me until you just started mentioning just this whole run, and that you and I met creating content back at Arrowhead Pride back in the day, covering Scott Pioli and the Kansas City Chiefs. And over the last few days, we've been around and chatting with Scott Pioli and helping him out with the CBS hits and making jokes about it. It is so crazy that we go from these outsiders just writing about this team, talking about this guy that had come from, New England and all the success that they had, and all the cover and all this hope. and the way that the team has completely turned it around, and the way that like going from outside bloggers to all of a sudden Pioli's be like, hey guys, can you help me get some stuff in here? And he's so nice. It's so cool. It's a conversation for another time.
It is.
But love getting a chance to run into him at this event. It's second, third year in a row.
Absolutely.
We had a chance to talk to him, and now he knows us pretty well.
I know.
It's a fun, just cool kind of like full circle moment for all of us in so many different ways, for the team, for us covering the team, for Pioli. Like, it's just cool.
If I would have told myself, 13, 14 years ago, it's like, hey, by the way, you and Scott Pioli are going to be on a first name basis, like, and conversing about your jobs, your shared jobs. No, definitely not. No chance in hell that that's ever going to happen. But yeah, how far we've come from since then. I mean, it's wild to think about how quickly that come up has happened.
Yeah, we've said it before that Clark Hunt hopping on that plane and cutting off Andy Reid from getting to the airport and then getting out of the hangar and into the jet to take him to Arizona and San Diego to interview for those jobs, and for Clark to fly to the hangar and say, we'll interview right here. 3 hours becomes 8 hours, becomes Tammy telling the limo driver, you know what, you don't have to take us out to the plane. We're not going anywhere. It was the biggest clutch moment in Kansas City sports history, and absolutely led to obviously bringing in Patrick Mahomes helps, but it started with Andy. Let's make no mistake. This thing started with Andy Reid coming to Kansas City. All right, let's move on. That's a good solid number one. They don't normally last that long, Craig, just so you know.
Okay.
But the second one is going to last longer than that because it's the Patrick Mahomes section of this show. He just keeps making postseason history. Mahomes connected with 7 different receivers for 30 completions, 241 yards, and 1 touchdown pass. Started hot, completing his first 11 pass attempts, the most consecutive pass attempts completed to start a game in Chiefs playoff history. His performance earned him his 12th career postseason game with 100 or better passer rating, tying him with Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana for the second most in NFL history. I like reading these to you because you've not done this before. This is the best part of this. 241 with the 241 yards, Mahomes claimed the second most passing yards in championship games in NFL history with 1,756 yards in his 6 conference championship games. With just 6 conference championship game appearances, he bested Joe Montana's 1,731 yards in 7 conference championship games. So all that's to say, he passed Joe Montana in a postseason career mark in conference championship. Unbelievable. To finish that off, this was Mahomes' 6th consecutive conference championship game, breaking his tie with Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Kenny Stabler for the second most consecutive conference championship game appearances by a quarterback in the Super Bowl era. He now only trails, not a huge surprise, Tom Brady, who had 8 straight conference championship game appearances, but it also marked Mahomes' 14th postseason win in games he started, tying him for the 3rd most quarterback postseason wins as a starter in NFL history. He is now tied with Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterbacks Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, and Peyton Manning.
Not bad for the 7th best quarterback this postseason, right?
Oh my God, that all the graphics and Jason McIntyre's never going to let it down.
I mean, it's
deservedly so.
It's a 2-horse race. He's 6 years into his starting career, and it's a 2-horse race for all these postseason records. It is. I'm going to keep saying the word insane because it is. He should not be this good this quickly. He should not be playing this well. He should not be having this kind of success. It is not normal to watch an NFL team do this, to watch a quarterback do this. And now we're looking up at all of these postseason records, playoff records for quarterbacks, and it's basically Tom Brady, played for a very long time and had sustained success throughout his entire career, and Patrick Mahomes, who has been in this for 6 years now.
Yeah, it's hard to contextualize, and it's getting to a point, and we've joked all week about this, talking with friends out here, just saying they thought the Ravens were going to win, and the Chiefs fans are the villains now. We just have to embrace the fact that everyone's going to be rooting against us going forward because of the sustained success that we've seen, and embracing just that kind of villain mentality. I'm at the point now where I look around the NFL and it's like we should all be. It's easy for us to say, "Well, for sure, ones,
yeah, we're having the success." Yeah,
but there's something special about players with the level of talent that Patrick Mahomes gets and putting them in a situation with Andy Reid. Because how many times has it probably that we would never know about? Could a talent be in the wrong situation with the wrong coaching staff and it just never clicks? It was the wrong set of people getting together. How lucky are all of us that we get to witness Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and even Travis Kelce, obviously, being together. It doesn't happen like where the stars align, and it's benefit for everyone who loves football to watch it.
Yeah, this isn't Dan Marino. Like I think about Dan Marino in a different situation. We're talking about him as
absolutely,
rings upon rings and all those sorts of things.
Patrick Mahomes would have liked him.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a
podcast. Yeah. We see it now. It is the perfect sync of quarterback, offensive mind, situation, and all of that. But he's also elevating it. He's also taking it to that next level. He's also doing all of that. So yeah, witnessing greatness in its prime, people are very quick to identify it and want to place other individuals on top of the pile. Yeah. Call them the next go. Call them the next thing. People wanted Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all of these quarterbacks to displace Patrick Mahomes this year. This was the year. He's ripe for the picking. And here he is again, setting more records, climbing up the postseason charts all time, and in another Super Bowl.
I think it says something when every team you go against, that opposing quarterback, this is a legacy game for Tua. This is a legacy game for Josh Allen. This is a legacy game for Lamar Jackson because they're all taking shot at the king.
Yeah. And they're missing.
Can't get it done. All right. Number 3, Travis Kelce continues his prolific postseason career. Kelce had a standout performance in the AFC Championship game against the Ravens with 11 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown, helping to punch the club's ticket to their 4th Super Bowl in his career. Started off hot with a 19-yard touchdown reception from Patrick Mahomes, the pair's NFL record 17th postseason touchdown on the opening drive of that game. With his 11 receptions in the game, Kelce now has 156 career postseason receptions, besting wide receiver Jerry Rice's 151 postseason receptions for the most by any player in NFL postseason history. His 116 yards receiving tonight also mark his 8th postseason game with 100 or more receiving yards, tying him with Rice for the most in NFL postseason history. So he's got something to play for in the Super Bowl. He gets 100 yards against Jerry Rice's former team, one of his the former team for Jerry Rice. We'll just call him forever.
Jerry Rice, when we were kids, you look at those records, they were untouchable. Like, I think everybody looked at, because he played for so long.
You look at his career,
the production,
regular season records. There are records that no one is going to touch ever. I saw something on Mike Evans, and I'm going to butcher this completely, but it's something like Mike Evans could have 7 more 1,000-yard seasons and still be completely way off, and he's had 10 straight 1,000.
I know.
No one's ever getting near what Jerry Rice did.
No.
And that's why I laugh when I hear these things, because you're not even comparing Travis Kelce to tight ends anymore.
No.
That was 3-4 years ago. Here's where he ranks against tight ends. They even have it on here where we're comparing him to Jerry Rice, because when you look at the most receptions in NFL history for tight ends in the postseason, he has 156. He's the best. Second is Rob Gronkowski with 98.
And Gronk played one more game.
Yeah, more receptions in the postseason than Rob Gronkowski for second most all time. Yeah,
and to put that in perspective, third is Dallas Clark with 64.
Novacek, Shannon Sharp.
He has more than doubled up third place at this point. Jerry Rice's records, in my mind, are untouchable because he played for 20 seasons in the NFL, and all the way up until the end. I know people are going to think about that and be like, oh, what did 40-year-old Jerry Rice do? Go look at the stats sometimes. He was still putting up 1,000-yard seasons. He was still contributing in the postseason. Travis Kelce taking any of those records is no small feat. And yet, here he is, passing him up in the postseason receptions. And, it would take a monster game, but a 3-touchdown game from Travis Kelce would tie the receiving touchdowns record for Jerry Rice. I don't think he's going to get the yards one.
I'm not putting anything past any of these guys.
I know, but another year? We may be talking about that one too. None of those should have ever been attainable by anybody, and it speaks to the postseason success that this team is at.
I thought he was distracted. Thought he was washed up. All these things.
He's more focused on his girlfriend. 11 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown.
So pissed. All right, let's move on to number 4, and that is Rashod Rice keeps climbing. Rashod Rice has had a standout rookie postseason performance again against the Ravens with 46 yards receiving on 8 catches, and he kept the momentum going with his 46 yards again against the Ravens. Brings his postseason total to 223, the 4th most in NFL history for a rookie playoff campaign. Rice continued to be an after-the-catch threat as well with 46 yards after the catch against the Ravens. Is 165 yards after the catch so far this postseason, leading the 2023 postseason amongst all players. So looking at the NFL, not just Chiefs, NFL record for receiving yards in the postseason for a rookie, Rashod Rice 4th. 3rd place is Austin Collie.
241.
Yep, 18 yards shy of Austin Collie. Mm-hmm. 19 yards shy of Torrey Holt.
Yes.
And then 145 yards shy of Jamar Chase went up.
Be a hell of a game.
That would be a big time. Wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
But really like his chances of getting in the top 2.
Yes, absolutely. And I this is a guy that when the Chiefs drafted him, I think that, you even heard Brett Veach's post-game press conference, after the AFC Championship game say, we tried to go up and trade for a wide receiver, but we ended up, fairly happy with what we ended up for. Yeah, you think? 4th all-time amongst rookie receivers in the postseason, coming up here, and probably, I would guess he's probably getting 19 yards receiving in the Super Bowl here. I like his chances at that as well. Number 2 all-time to Jamar Chase, who had a hell of a postseason. Yeah. That year that they made their run. That would be an outstanding effort for him. It just speaks to what they've been able to do with him as a receiver, how he's been able to commit himself to the game and develop, and the way that they've been able to get him the ball as they've, kind of modeled the offense around him and Kelsey.
And the optimism that we'll have going forward, regardless of what this team does, because this is a rebuilding year. Remember, they're going to make some moves and bring in some guys who can make plays in the regular season, I guess. Going through this, we won't have guys like MVS aren't going to be listed, but we talked about him. I know you guys talked about it on the post-game show, raised the glass to him, that Rashod Rice getting it done and knowing he's going to be on the team, and sounds bad, but from a roster composition, not going to cost you a lot of money.
No.
For the next 3 years, starting to put numbers up like this.
Not going to cost you a whole lot of money. You think Brett Veach says the same comment afterwards? This is supposed to be a rebuilding year. If they win it again, it just pulls out his old speech for the parade.
I think there's a better chance than not, regardless of how this plays out, that the offensive weapons that are on paper going into next season, you'd feel better about than you did going into this season.
Yes.
Even with all the optimism.
For sure.
Kadarius Toney and Justin Ross is a big
Sky Moore
and all of them.
Yes.
That they get it done when it matters.
Yep.
All of them doesn't matter. They're right back there. All right, let's get to number 5. And had a big game. Had a good game here. Isaiah Pacheco kept the ground game going. Behind the blocks of the Chiefs' offensive line, he had a solid day on the ground with 68 rushing yards on 24 attempts and a touchdown. Pacheco punched in the Chiefs' second touchdown run of the game on a 2-yard run early in the second quarter, giving the Chiefs a 14-7 lead. Pacheco has now had a rushing touchdown in 4 consecutive postseason games dating back to the Super Bowl against the Eagles, the second longest streak in Chiefs postseason history. His touchdown was his 4th postseason rushing touchdown of his career. Third most in franchise history.
Yeah, that old.
Those aren't fun stats.
In his second year as a player within this offense, something about young Chiefs running backs showing up when it matters most in the postseason. I don't let his performance in this game kind of go under the radar here. I know that the numbers are going to be gaudy. They were tough
especially
yards.
My favorite run of his was the last one.
Yes.
Where he stopped for a gain of 2-3 yards, whatever it was, and then drove for another 6 or 7.
Correct.
His running style, I think, is perfect for this offense, and that gives him a little juice when so much of the juice for the offense is Patrick Mahomes running around and doing crazy stuff when it comes from other places, and just based on pure effort and drive and the willingness to get extra yards. Gets him going as an energy giver.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would often call these guys. So I can't wait till the next section because we get to talk about your favorite thing, and that is about the defense. And I'm sorry that it took this long for us to get the defense, but that's how we had the outline set up. So we'll talk about the defense. Craig Stout here on 10 Things right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
All right, welcome back to 10 Things here on KC Sports Network. Appreciate y'all hanging out with Craig Stout.
Yeah.
We get to talk about your favorite thing.
Yes.
Winning.
Phoenix. Oh, sorry. The defense. Yes.
Yes, you know what? The defense came in clutch.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that or not. But Chiefs defense came in and set the tone early against the Ravens, forcing a 3-and-out on the opening drive. Then in the second quarter, Charles Omenihu took down Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson for a loss of 7 yards and forced a fumble. His fumble was recovered by George Karlaftis, giving the ball back to the Chiefs offense at the Baltimore 33-yard line. Omenihu now has 3 forced fumbles in his postseason career, 4.5 postseason sacks for a loss of 28.5 yards. And maybe most importantly, because he did leave this game with an injury, that there was James Palmer from NFL Network tweeted out after the game that there's optimism. He's going to get an MRI on the knee, but there was optimism, and I believe it's Harold Kuntz who tweeted out that Omenihu said he's going to play.
Yeah.
Well, every player is going to say that in this situation. So,
yeah.
Optimism that he's not just completely saying that it's torn or something could be wrong, but yeah, they're all going to be excited. He's all going to say he's going to play right now. You got 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Got 2 weeks. Seemed very happy holding the AFC Championship trophy, as one does. Of course you do. But, you speak to energy givers. He is an energy giver on that defensive line. He is just kind of one of those guys that as the season has gone along, as he's gotten more and more reps, as he's become part of the dime defense, he's been such a massive part of their success and why they're able to shut teams down late in the game when they're trying to throw, when they're in these pass-heavy scripts. He gets the tee off, and you saw that the Ravens gotten themselves into a pass-first situation there. Charles Omenihu comes screaming around the edge after George Karlaftis does a good job as well. Gets a strip sack. George Karlaftis picks it up. Key pivotal moment of the game right there.
Absolutely. And you look at what this defense has done over the past 8 games. They have not allowed more than 7 points in the second half of their last 8 games. I'm going to say that again for effect. The Chiefs defense has not allowed more than 7 points in the second half of their last 8 games. Just 32 points total, an average of 4 points per game. That's Steve Spagnuolo leading the NFL's youngest defense. And somehow this man was not top 5 in the assistant coach of the year voting.
Don't get me started. You're trying to trigger me. Give me to go off on the specs. It's unacceptable that Steve Spagnuolo doesn't get more respect. I think we're seeing plenty of it after this game. I know that there's a lot of people that are saying I'm never betting against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs again. Patrick Mahomes was great. Don't get me wrong. Not trying to take anything away from him. Especially early. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Steve Spagnuolo closed this out. That second half was a masterpiece out of him and these players. This is the second postseason game for Steve Spagnuolo that he has allowed 1 point per drive or less. This postseason, not all time, this postseason alone, those are elite level numbers, and that second half stat is exactly the case. That's I know that our guy Peter Yodrich kind of had looked into some of that before, and so we want to shout him out for this. But it is one of those things that when they're referencing it on the broadcast and they're saying, well, they're a pretty good, they're a good second half defense. They're an elite second half defense, not allowing double-digit points at all. Ask the Lions if they'd like a second half defense right now that did not allow double-digit points. It's about closing out games in important moments, and that's what Steve Spagnuolo is doing right now.
I love the guys wearing the shirt. Then Spags, we trust. Right. And I love after the game when he's asked about it, and he's just such a total normal dude about it. Just like, it's kind of embarrassing because if we didn't play well,
what's it? I wouldn't have. Yeah, because then my face would have been on the thing.
Human way to look at it.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at it going, what are you talking about, man? You guys were elite. And he's like, yeah, it's a good thing we played well. It's like, man, you played awesome. What are you talking about, man? Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like when you're watching, it's almost 2 different games because early on it was just Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes
for sure,
crazy plays, and the Ravens
was still playing well.
Yeah, but the Ravens finding success on broken plays, the busted one where a couple guys had shots at Lamar Jackson. He made a great play to get out of it. For the other guys on college, all the ways that you want to say, guy has a chance, doesn't make a play. Ravens are like, it's because Lamar's awesome. And Chiefs are saying because Leo Chanel didn't make the tackle, or Drew Tranquil on another one had a chance and didn't put him down, but. Let's move on to number 7, because now we'll talk about some of the players individually after talking about the defense as a whole. 2 of those guys, L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, combined powers as L'Jarius Sneed had 2 major plays as the Ravens drove down the field to close out the third quarter and to open up the fourth quarter. Sneed was able to stop wide receiver Zay Flowers from scoring after Lamar Jackson connected on a 54-yard pass to punt them at the KC 25-yard line. That's how this is written. You will remember it as the big play in which Zay Flowers did a very... We like Zay. We've talked to Zay.
We love Zay.
Like Zay.
Zay's good dude.
But this was dumb.
It was dumb.
The taunting, very obvious taunting. It wasn't just the one thing. He did 3 things that were all individual taunting. You combine them, it's an easy call. Pushed him down, spun the ball in his face, and kind of flexed over the top of him. And as I mentioned on the postgame, it came on at the end of it, there's nothing better, especially as a fan, than watching your team in that moment get punked a little bit and seeing how are you going to respond. Are you going to let them do that to you on the road if you're the Chiefs? And L'Jarius Sneed responded.
Yes. I mean, big players make big plays in big moments, and that's exactly what this was. L'Jarius Sneed all season long, we've talked about him as a lockdown corner, as a first-team All-Pro, which he should have been, and it's criminal that he wasn't. That's also just as much as the Steve Spagnuolo thing that triggers me as well. We haven't seen him give up many big plays. We haven't seen him give up many plays at all, but let alone big plays. And then he has one. And you're starting to think, oh no, they played so well. They were clinging to this. The offense isn't moving the ball. They can't let up. We don't need this to, kind of fall apart. And all of a sudden, Zay Flowers gets a crosser, has space to the end zone, reaches out for it. L'Jarius Sneed punches it right out, right at the goal line. So close to the goal line that if anybody goes back and watches the postgame, I believe we clipped it and posted on the KCSN Twitter account there, I had to sit and wait for the replay because I wasn't certain. Like everybody else was freaking out. I said, I need to see it. And the moment I saw it, just what an outstanding play by L'Jarius Sneed, continually being one of the Chiefs' defensive MVPs. He was incredible today, yet again.
He's going to get paid. And
he should.
And it's going to be awesome for him.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the video on social media of, I think Justin Reid had put it out there, however many days ago that was. It was his birthday, and his cake was just like a giant money sign. Yeah. Like you're about to get paid.
Yes.
And then he goes out again in the next biggest game of his career, get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl, makes the play of the game. Sneed finished the day with 5 tackles and that forced fumble, as Trent McDuffie had 1 solo tackle and 2 passes defensed with his fumble recovery, and Trent McDuffie, phenomenal.
Oh, he was also terrific.
Well.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Let's just stay right there on the second-year players and talk about how great they've been, because they have really... I'm going to set this point up because we've talked about Patrick Mahomes entering his prime, and that the reason that the Patriots had the run they did wasn't just because Tom Brady was in his prime. It's because the Patriots nailed like 2 or 3, depending upon how you want to look at, drafts in a row.
Yes.
Where they had young guys that were contributing so they could pay Patrick Mahomes $500 million, but also have the money to spend elsewhere and be smart about it with guys like Drew Tranquill and Mike Edwards and Charles Omenihu and all these moves that Brett Veach has made that have worked. The draft class last year is what the foundation of this run that we're on right now, in my opinion, of guys like Trent McDuffie and the next guy we're about to talk about, and George Karlaftis having another one of the biggest plays in this game, because in the second quarter, after Charles Omenihu got the strip sack of Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, Karlaftis recovered the fumble. It was Karlaftis' first postseason fumble recovery on what would be the Ravens' final drive. Karlaftis got the Chiefs' 4th sack of the day. He brought down Jackson on a 4-yard loss, brings his total to 2.5 sacks this postseason, 3.5 in his postseason career. Karlaftis ended the day tallying 4 tackles, a sack, fumble recovery, and a quarterback pressure to help pave the way for the Chiefs' 17-10 victory. Stepping up in the postseason after leading the Chiefs in sacks this season and being, I believe, top 3 in franchise history for number of sacks from this defense. These young guys are getting it.
They absolutely are. And when you hit on a draft class, George Karlaftis, terrific draft pick. Trent McDuffie, terrific draft pick. The depth there, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, I don't want to leave them out as well, also had terrific games as well. There are lots of other guys. I don't want to leave anybody out. So if I have, trust me, I'm not trying to slight your favorite player here, but they have nailed so many of these things that it's given them the grace to take a draft class like the last one that they did. I know that there's lots of discussion about the Chiefs' first-round draft pick from this last class. They needed healthy scratch. Yes. Yeah. They needed to give him time to grow into what his role was going to be in the NFL. And sure, he could play right now. We would be seeing a lot of growing pains. We would be seeing a lot of that. You get to take chances on guys with super high ceilings because you built the foundation through previous draft classes. You've built the ability to take those swings because if they're misses, they're not crushing you. Other GMs don't have this luxury. And so when you take a guy like Rashod Rice and you say, boy, we hope he develops, and then he does, you get to do this again with other classes and other things like that. So it's smart drafting and taking those cuts, taking those swings. George Karlaftis gives them the ability to take a Felix and a Duque Ozama and say, buddy, take a year. We believe in you. Yeah. We think you're going to be a top flight pass rusher, but we know you need a little seasoning. Just take the year. We'll get back to you next year. No big deal. That is a luxury tons of teams don't have.
I could be wrong on this, and I'm sure I'll get reminded quickly, but I want to know how many late round, first round picks have had as many sacks as George Karlaftis. And
it's TJ Watt, and it's basically, and then it's a large gap.
Where was TJ Watt drafted?
Around this same pick. Pick 28-ish area.
Okay. I thought it was a little bit higher.
Tucker.
Either way.
Yeah. Either way. It was late 20s or the 30s there. Point being, guys don't have the kind of production that George Karlaftis is having, period.
Well, and it's impressive what they were able to do getting a talent to get production like that, where the Chiefs are picking in the draft. You have to take some swings on some guys because if you were looking for a guy who's completely polished as a pass rusher who's going to step in and make an immediate impact, you're not drafting that guy at 32. You're getting the 5th, 6th, 7th edge rusher, defensive end in a lot of cases. And with George Karlaftis, it was development. They got it figured out. With Felix,
it's 30. Pick 30 that TJ Watt was taking. Point being, there are guys like an Alden Smith, a TJ Watt. They are few and far between. George Karlaftis is definitely in. I'm not putting him in the TJ Watt tier yet. No, but he is in the very next tier of the guys that are drafted in that range. I did a study a while back. I need to go back and update it because I'd be very curious. Maybe off-season project here. KCSA, so keep an eye on it. But the number of pass rushers at the time, I was looking for guys that had 24 sacks in their rookie contract. And I found it was less than 15% of guys. It is such a small number of guys that are able to accumulate that many sacks in their rookie contract. George Karlaftis is well on pace for that. Well on pace for that. So he is way ahead of the curve of what you expect, not just for a late first-round pass rusher, but any first-round pass rusher.
That's impressive. Yeah, I believe Ken Swanson on the screen said that was the best rush of George Karlaftis' career. I watched it live.
It was up there. It really was up there. It was a terrific one. Yeah.
All right. Another impactful play. Number 9, Dion Bush with the interception. It was fun because of the conversation you and I had in the car this morning. But Dion Bush helped close the game out with an interception in the end zone of Lamar Jackson. So he was looking for Isaiah Likely. There's 3 defenders back there.
Yeah, good throw.
The interception gave the ball back to the Chiefs, who were able to close out the day with a 17-10 victory. Interception was the first of Bush's postseason career.
It is nice to have safety depth, isn't it? I remember not too long ago, Tyrann Mathieu goes down in a game and the Chiefs defense is broken. Now, granted, Tyrann Mathieu meant a ton to this defense, but the ability to have a guy, a playmaker like Mike Edwards, go down, have to miss some time in this game, and then to have to rely on a Dion Bush to come in and play significant snaps, it is a monster thing for this team to be able to lean on your depth in that way, and then to have him come up with a massive play at the end of the game. Terrible throw. Shouldn't have thrown it into triple coverage. But guess what? Dion Bush was coming up with that pick.
He caught it.
He caught it. No, Dion Bush undercut it. It was coming. It didn't matter. It didn't have to be another defender around. Dion Bush was coming up with that interception.
That's the biggest play of Dion Bush's career.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. He's got
1,000%. Yes.
He's going to go make another one at Super Bowl. All right.
Oh, I love it.
Number 10.
Calling your shot.
Can't believe it took this long to get to this dude because he was all
really anchor. Close. We're calling it the anchor. Number 10. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Justin Reid flew around on the back end, but one of his biggest plays came in the backfield with the Ravens in Kansas City territory on the 41-yard line and facing a 3rd and 9. Reid got home on an 8-yard sack of Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, forcing the punt. The sack was the first playoff sack of Reid's career, and Reid contributed to a total of 4 tackles, 3 of which were solo, a sack, quarterback hit, and a tackle for loss. that doesn't do justice to the impact that man made. I don't care what that says. That dude was everywhere. He was in the middle of this shit talking whenever it was going down on that side of the football. He was making plays all over the field. And I'm sorry, bigger point here we talk about the Chiefs defense and how good they've been. They were a top 3 defense all season. They've been dominant in the playoffs again, facing the AFC's number 1, number 2, and number 3 ranked offenses in the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Ravens, both in terms of yards per game and points per game. Those 3 teams averaged 28 points per game. Then they faced Justin Reid, Steve Spagnuolo and company, and they've averaged 13 points per game. We talked about the dominance in the second half, but they're also the youngest defense in the NFL. So the veterans you do have that are starting, especially the defensive backs and the safeties, with as much as they like to move those guys around. I don't have to tell you that, you know more than I do. Justin Reid being a leader on that team, I don't care what the box score ever says. You just know based on the defense that they have and the success that they have, that guy has to be a leader in that locker room.
I really like that this is the final point, the 10th point here, because we talked about a lot of greatness here, a lot of great performances on the day. And I know Maddie said this on the post game. I want to repeat what he said. Justin Reid was the best football player on the field tonight. He was, period. He was everywhere. He was making plays everywhere. He was terrific in coverage. He was terrific against the run. He was terrific as a blitzer. He was a tone setter. He was the reason why this Chiefs defense in the middle of the second half did not fold. He is a leader out there. So was Nick Bolton. So was Chris Jones. Not taking away anything from them. He is the vocal leader on this defense and the guy that guides and shapes the way that they go. And what we have seen over the end of this, we talk all the time about Steve Spagnuolo and tailoring. You want to be peaking at the right time. You want to be really the arrow pointing up once you get to the postseason. You want to talk about a guy that exemplified that this year? That was Justin Reid. He was good throughout the season. He has been terrific in the postseason and terrific to close out the year. And this was a masterclass by him. It really was. He was everywhere today.
You know what I didn't think about until you just said that is that we used to say never judge a Spags defense before Halloween, because they spend the first few weeks just figuring things out and then all like struggling, and then all of a sudden it clicks. They were so good early this year that it was like, well, what's going to happen now?
How can they go up? I mean, what? They're top 3. What are they going to do?
Not give up more than a touchdown in the second half?
An elite playoff defense, even more so than they already are? As it turns out, yes, it gets better. And so he has been the cog in all of this. One of the key components in crafting this defense the way that it is. They don't win this football game without that performance there. A lot of guys, not just him, but he is just the one that sticks out the most because of how well he played. And you got to see one of the first guys that Steve Spagnuolo goes over to is Justin Reid. I mean, we've seen him do that with a lot of guys that were very important to this defense that will go down in Kansas City Chiefs lore. Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, like those guys that he has singled out. Justin Reid's one of those guys. I know there are some people that don't want to admit it, that don't want to admit how good he's been, but that's the level that he has been in Steve Spagnuolo's best Kansas City defense, and one of the reasons why they are here in the Super Bowl now.
That is one of the reasons that you listen to KC Sports Network. It's Craig Stout right there. We appreciate everybody for listening as we went through. It's called 10 things. There were a lot more than 10 things that we just talked about, but we appreciate you for listening, and we appreciate the fact that you know that Only Weird Games is coming up on Monday. Those guys will be going live around 4:30-ish, between 4:30 and 5. If you listen, you know. And then the KC Lab, those guys will be going live on the YouTube channel Monday night. You can check out all the shows on the audio, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Google Play. You can find the podcast in all different places. We appreciate your support. And we appreciate the fact that we've got 2 more weeks to talk about Kansas City Chiefs football as they get ready to take on the San Francisco 49ers and try and make more history that we would love to chat about. Appreciate your support. Take care. Be kind. For Craig Stout, I'm BJ Kissel. We'll see you next time.